So I visited Foxtrot Market in Chicago, and I want to tell you about it. Plus, we're going to ask how much are holiday shoppers going to spend this year? We're also going to ask you, would you co-work at a department store? All of that, plus the retail challenge right now on everything we know about retail. Hello, my name is James Cook. I'm coming to you live from Indiana. Ebere Anokute is in New York. Taylor Coyne is in Los Angeles. What's up?
Hello.
Hello.
We've got the coast, we've got the other coast, and we've got the flyover country. We're all covered.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, this is everything we know about retail, where we tell all of you everything we know about retail, 3 things at a time. Let's get into it. Ebere, what do you know about retail?
All right, James. Well, here is the first thing that we know about retail. So one of the major office developments happening in New York right now is a building called 1 Madison Avenue. It's one of the few developments that I think is happening, right? When you think about a city like New York City that it has so many office buildings, it's really exciting when there is a new one coming up. So there's a lot of buzz about 1 Madison Avenue. It's going to be 1.4 million square feet, 26 stories, located right near Madison Square Park. So right in the heart of Midtown South, I would say. And it's really exciting news this week because they've signed on their first retail tenant, and it's going to be Chelsea Piers, right? So Chelsea Piers, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Chelsea Piers. You haven't heard of Chelsea Piers? I know, Taylor, you probably have, yeah.
Yes.
James, you haven't heard of Chelsea Piers at all?
I don't think so. Refresh me.
For sure. So Chelsea Piers, it's a sports, this is my definition of it. It's a sports mega complex, right? Located right at the corner of 23rd Street and Hudson River Park. So it's right on the edge of the island down, right at the top of Chelsea. And they have facilities for 20 plus different sports, right? So you can go there and play basketball, baseball, golf, swimming, volleyball. I actually went once with a team of JLL people, and we were, they have a driving range like in the back where you can hit golf balls seemingly into the sunset if you're talented enough, or just into the green sort of patio that they have back there. But you can do a lot of stuff there, and they also have obviously a fitness center too. So it's really kind of an all-encompassing athletic sports fitness sort of center. And they are going to be signing on for their second Manhattan location at 1 Madison Avenue. So they'll be taking over 56,000 square feet across 4 levels. That's ground, second, and 2 basement levels. And like I said, it's going to be their second location in Manhattan. They have one currently in Brooklyn, as well as in Stamford, Connecticut, in addition to their flagship in Chelsea, basically.
I didn't realize they ever had other ones besides, it's Chelsea Piers, because also it's like, it's on the pier. That, this is the one that we have right here. So
it's like Saks Fifth Avenue, They're all over.
Absolutely. Taylor, I had the same exact impression. Yeah, I had the same impression, Taylor. I was like, I didn't know they had more than one location. I thought it was just the Chelsea Piers, but the article that I read said it was a 4th, so I looked up where the other ones were, and it's been cool to see them, expanding. And obviously, whereas the flagship location is around 200,000 square feet, like I said, it's a mega complex. It's huge. These other locations are a little bit smaller. Like I said, the new one's going to be around 56,000 square feet, so about a quarter of the size, and focusing primarily on the fitness component of it. I've been chatting so much, I forgot to show you a picture. So let's go up and show the picture of the rendering, at least what's supposed to look like at 1 Madison Avenue. So you can see there the entrance on the ground floor that's going to go down to the basement level, and I'm sure the second level is somewhere up there as well. So it's going to be a really cool complex.
So when we say focus on fitness, and from this rendering too, it seems more like, this is a gym. A gym where you can also do sporting events, versus like Chelsea Piers, I actually think of like organized sports and birthday parties. And like birthday parties, I don't even mean for little kids. Like, I mean for anyone who's like, let's go do this thing. Like, I really want to, go ice skating. I think they have an ice skating rink.
They do. Absolutely. They have, listen, name it. They probably have it in there.
So like, this is just kind of, and again, clearly I didn't even know they had different locations. So for me, it almost kind of feels like, this is like something new. You're just getting into gyms. Absolutely. Gyms and other things. Maybe handball. It feels like handball would probably exist in there. And what's the other? Squash. Squash
I'm
courts.
sure they have facilities for it.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
positive they have the capability for it. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think of the traditional Chelsea Piers as well as like an event space almost.
Yeah.
But they have always had that little fitness gym component to it as well. And I think that as they thought about expanding, they have tried to focus on that fitness component and offer that as like a luxury fitness alternative to something like maybe Lifetime or Equinox, things like that. They kind of position themselves at that price point. So that's how they have been thinking about expanding. And I kind of wanted to highlight this new lease for a couple reasons. Number one, it's a 20-year lease, right, which is pretty long, especially coming
Wow.
out of these sort of uncertain COVID era leases that have been signed. Now, I think gyms usually have pretty long leases just because the cost to build out the space and to do all of that is so, such an investment that it doesn't make sense to have a short lease there. They typically do go like 10 or 15 years, but I think 20 is really, kind of long. And it's indicative of a larger trend that we've been seeing here in New York. So this graph here is from one of our New York City research reports, and it just shows how term lengths have changed over the past 6 years or so. As you can see, they kind of started to dip in 2016, 2017 to their lowest point in 2018, but have been rising since then. And I think that that's indicative of retailers, confidence in the long-term viability of New York City and, their desire to stake their claim now and to, ride it out for the long haul. So I wanted to highlight the lease for that reason.
Ebere, I am shocked.
Are you really?
Nationally, lease lengths are shortening. Like the fact that this has been going up, this is a real scoop for me. This is great.
Hey, come on, I do this. What are you talking about?
This is good material for the rest of the year, That's all James needs.
Exactly. So definitely a nice, portent there. And then also fitness retailers have become more active over the course of this year after they were kind of stifled throughout the pandemic, right? I don't believe fitness retailers counted as essential retailers. So for a lot of last year, they were forced to be closed or at least operate under heavy restrictions with decreased capacity and things like that. So that kind of led to them comprising only 5% of overall leasing activity throughout 2020. Whereas in Q3 of this year, which we just wrapped up stats for, they comprise around 15%. So clearly you can see that is a category that is taking advantage of these sort of pricing decreases and a lot of the available space on the market to try to be aggressive and make up for the space that they lost throughout 2020. And lastly, I'll just highlight that it's a JLL deal. So shout out to Matt Ogle and Aaron Grace, two brokers that I work closely with in the New York office. This is something that they've been working on for a long time. I remember when the first, they asked for demos for the first time to try to figure out, where they should go. So to see that go from just an idea and some phone calls to, this really amazing flagship lease at a brand new building in the city is super exciting.
Hey, not to toot our own horn, but toot.
Toot. We love JLL around here, so we'll toot as much as we need to.
All right, Ebere, what else do you know about retail?
Listen, I know a lot this week. So here is the second thing that we know about retail. We are going to be joined now by Keisha Virtue. Welcome. Keisha.
Hey.
Keisha Virtue is a researcher here at JLL who researches retail, kind of like the rest of us. And she recently ran a survey of over 1,000 holiday shoppers. So we're going to get into some of the results from that survey and try to learn what's going on this holiday season with consumers. So Keisha, can you tell me, are shoppers spending more this holiday season or less? Where did we end up on that?
Well, good news, Ebere. They're spending more. Just like for most of this year, consumers have really been pushing recovery as far as spending. And that is very consistent with what's happening as far as what we found in our holiday survey. So if we take a look at the chart, we can see that the average holiday budget per person this year is $870. Now, last year it was $694. So it's a 25.4% jump. And it's pretty much on par what it was in 2019. So that represents a real push in confidence and how consumers are feeling, a reflection of what's going on with pent-up demand and just how much spare cash some of these consumers are sitting on and what they're willing to do with it. So very good news.
Absolutely. That's great news. Going back up to 870 after dipping in 2020, that's absolutely great news.
It is good news.
I mean, are you guys expecting to spend more this holiday season than you did last year? Like personally, how do you guys feel about that?
Initially we're not, but I mean, I feel like my daughter's list just keeps growing and growing. So we'll see. I do know that for sure I want to shop in store first before I start heading online. We're going to talk about that in our next highlight. But
For
yeah,
sure.
just a couple things as far as the spending trend. We noticed that older consumers, 45 years and up, they're spending more on gifts this year relative to, say, younger consumers. And I feel like the grandparents are really stepping up this year. They're really going to be buying a lot of gifts for their, their grandkids. So
Absolutely. That's really cool. So, Keisha, can you tell us, where is this holiday shopping taking place? I know you said yourself that you want to go back to the store because you're a team player. We love the frontier. So
retail,
what about
yes.
the survey? Where do consumers say that they were going to be doing a lot of their shopping?
I am in good company because a lot of people are heading back to stores.
Wow.
The first thing I really want to point out in this chart, it's a little busy, but we've compared 2019, 2020, and 21 just to show the difference. And what we're seeing is that definitely more shoppers are spending across channels. They're definitely willing to spend not just one channel, two channels, they're going across channels. If we look at order online, pick up curbside, the far right, I mean, it wasn't even a thing in 2019. So COVID really introduced that to the consumers as an option, as a convenient way to get their goods, and that's definitely been more of a trend, obviously, in the last year or so. But what I find,
Because it's the best. Just putting it out there. Because it's great.
It's fantastic, Taylor. But what's really interesting? We did the back to school survey in July this year, and there were more people doing curbside pickup than buy online, pick up in store. BOPIS, right? Wow. But that is not the case for the holidays. There are actually more people doing pickup in store for the holidays than curbside. And I'm led to believe that people actually do want to taste a little bit of that holiday in-store experience. So that's really good news for us, I think.
That's excellent news. James and Taylor, Taylor, like I said, you are the curbside queen. I'm dubbing you that today.
Thank you.
So where are you going to do your shopping? James, Taylor, you guys are going to go in-store, curbside, online? What are you thinking?
I am a let's touch all the channels type of shopper.
Yes.
Because it's a both. And I'm with the, you want to go in store because there's always I'm very much that person. Oh, do you see that? I'll grab that too since I'm here, even though I didn't come in for it. I'm that sucker. And it's fine. I know who I am. And that's okay.
For sure.
And plus I do also like to see all the holiday cheer. However, I know we don't really talk about this, but yesterday I was walking in Pasadena. I walked into Pottery Barn. It is decked out in holiday cheer.
It's great.
I love that.
Yeah. That's,
I'm a slightly anti-Christmas creep. So it just seems early.
It's November.
Do we have a graphic to show a thumbs down, Taylor? Because I'm not feeling that. We love Christmas on this show.
Maybe it's because I feel overwhelmed and normally I'm really on top of it and I haven't thought about my list. So maybe this is truly more of a reflection on myself rather than yes, the holiday cheer is starting. But normally I'm all about the holiday cheer. But anyway,
I feel like Halloween is that point usually where people start focusing. But what really irritated me, Taylor, is not that Halloween line, it's the before Halloween line. Early October we went into Lowe's and they had Christmas decorations up and I'm like, where am I? Am I in some sort of time loop here? I'm not really sure what's going on.
Agreed.
Fair enough. I wonder if it was set up pre-Halloween, but because I walked in today. So maybe I just had also read that, so I went in with a little bit of bias. So
it's possible.
Again,
James,
I'll self-reflect.
Where are you going to do your shopping, James?
Yeah, I do it all. I do not only every channel you see here or you saw on that last screen, but I also buy stuff on paper catalogs. I know you're like, what? Those exist?
So you send it the forms?
Indeed, they do. Oh no.
Oh,
I should take that back. Yeah, I find them in the catalog and then go buy them on the website.
Well, yeah.
Big for us. Do you guys know Taylor? Zingerman's in Ann Arbor is a deli, and they also do mail order. And I often will send people baked goods and treats from Zingerman's, and we get their catalog all the time. We're on their hot list apparently.
Same,
yeah. But love curbside pickup, but must at least go to the mall at least once during the holidays, or they'll actually take away my retail card. I won't be allowed at the annual meeting if I don't.
Exactly. Got to show your face at the local brick and mortar, right? That's how we stay in business. I'm still reeling from the paper catalog comment, but we'll get past that. Keisha, can you tell us, are people buying gifts for themselves as well, or are they focused mainly on their loved ones and their family?
They are definitely buying gifts for themselves, and
Oh,
it's
wow.
increasing again. We see 2021 over 2020, and it's basically almost everybody's just buying more of everything. But it's interesting. Every year it goes up. So this year, about 71% of consumers are buying something for themselves. Last year, it was 67.4%.
Wow.
2019, before COVID, it was 53.2%. So I don't know if we're being more honest or if more people are just waiting for deals or we just really need some cheering up now. I'm not sure.
It's the last one. It's the last one.
Yes. So I really feel that people are going to be taking advantage of those deal days. And that was reflected in our survey that more people are going to be shopping Black Friday. They're going to be shopping Cyber Monday and everything in between. So yeah, definitely apparel is big. Electronics huge, particularly for the male shoppers. So yeah, definitely more people buying for themselves.
That's amazing. I mean, this is all really good news. I'm happy to hear this because it kind of counters, the sort of, I don't know, I feel like the news in general has been kind of wide-eyed about the holidays, like, supply chain, labor shortages, what are we going to do? But it's
Exactly.
that the demand is definitely there from the consumer side.
The demand is there. Now, we did a little follow-up survey to find out, are consumers really worried about what's happening with the supply chain? And about 8% said that they were more worried than last year about stuff running out of stock. I'm not sure if that's an awareness issue or, if people are just like, well, I'm just going to start. I mean, we're planning to shop early anyway, and we're going to get stuff. So we're not really concerned. But yeah,
Absolutely.
it's definitely a factor, at least at some level.
Definitely will be a factor, and we'll have to, see how that plays out, see if it gets me off of my behind and get started on my shopping, because it hasn't yet, but hopefully.
Yeah, all I know is I better get that vanity table for my daughter at Target before it runs out.
You probably better, yeah. Well, thank you so much, Keisha, our survey guru, always helping us with the insights and the numbers. We appreciate you. Keisha's going to stick around for the rest of the show, but in the meantime, Taylor, what do you know about retail?
Here's the third thing that we know about retail. Well, I'm back. This is it. That was it. I've got no news. It just feels really official that I put up the little video. So that's it. That's the third thing that we know.
Sounds good.
I joke. The third thing that we know about retail is that Coworking is heading to Saks Fifth Avenue. I know, it's alive. It's alive and well.
But question, literally on Fifth Avenue?
So I will get there, James. Thank you. So, all right. Hudson's Bay is owner of Saks, and they are partnering with WeWork to launch SaksWorks.
Nice.
Wonder how they came up with that. But all right, before we get into SaksWorks and this partnership and what it means for retail and real estate, let us rewind to a time before the pandemic. Let us all try to remember this. Yes. So a few years ago, pre-pandemic, also pre-WeWork IPO, Keisha actually wrote this great report, and it was called "Can Coworking Work at the Mall?" And this is when we had, looked at a bunch of different co-working spaces that had moved into malls, power centers. I mean, you can look from the chart, right? We looked at malls, street front retail, mixed use, neighborhood centers. Where were all of these places going? Because we've been hearing all this hubbub that co-working and office space in general would be great for all of this vacant space. And we actually saw that 21.3% were going to the mall. So Keisha's question, can co-working work at the mall, was correct, accurate. However, I really like to pride ourselves, our team, that our work has a lot of long shelf life of our themes and topics. But pandemic hits, and I will be honest, I got a little worried about it.
You thought co-working wouldn't work at the mall, is what you're saying?
I was concerned that co-working would not work at the mall any longer.
Just FYI, through the pandemic, not during the lockdowns, but when it started to open up again, I was co-working at a mall. So.
There you go.
So I was gonna make you talk about your experience a little bit when we get there. But so again, it was all about oh no, like people, we've shifted our attitudes on where we want to work and how we want to work. But I think, again, I'm not quite sure when the pandemic I'm not sure when we'll ever say it's behind us. But it's certainly, I told myself that I would now stop saying the word new normal, but alas, here I am. The new normal is here, and it's all about flexibility. We talk about that all the time with retail and shopping. We want flexibility, and I think employees want that too. So I think it's still a viable option. And I'm not the only one, because clearly Hudson Bay also thinks that it's a viable option. So Saks Works is going to debut in 5 locations around the New York area. That's just a start. They're co-working spaces. I mean, it's a pretty typical co-working space, right? They say that the Saks Works has more public space, less like private rooms. So it's really open and airy. They've got, cafes, they've got gyms, they've got all of the kind of, the good amenities that you would have expected at a WeWork and they're going to have them here as well. And of course, we're talking about this because they're going into retail spaces. So the one that is opening up in Lower Manhattan is going to replace a former Saks men's store. They're going to replace a former children's store in the 10th Avenue flagship store in Midtown. And then the 3 others are going to be in the suburbs. And I feel like we should pay a little bit of attention to the one in the suburbs, because that's kind of like the whole point on partially why I think this is really going to work, right? People want this flexibility. You don't necessarily want to work at home all the time. You want to go into a space, but maybe that day that you want to go into a more workspace, but you don't want to do the commute all the way to downtown to your corporate office. These are really great, in-betweens. And I think that that's a really good solution. And we also know retail follows rooftop, so they're close to people's homes. I think it's just like a very good option for a lot of people.
Yeah, I see Greenwich, Connecticut. I see Westchester. Ebere, what do you think about hitting that up at some point?
I definitely will. Honestly, I've been trying to get out of the house and, find somewhere local to go, take calls, do some work. And I tried the local library, and they just didn't have a lot of like private space. It's a library, right? So it was more so for like public studying and things like that. So I really think that's what we're missing out here in Westchester is some, a nice co-working facility. So I can definitely see that being really popular, and I'm definitely going to try it out when it opens.
Yeah, I just feel like sorry, Keisha, go ahead.
What I'd be interested to see is if they're ever going to open daycare facilities inside or alongside these facilities, because let me tell you, you're working from home and you have a kid who for some reason is either not at school, or maybe you have them for half the day after they come out from school, which is my current reality. I mean, you really want that kind of facility there because that would definitely get me out of the house and into a co-working facility for sure.
I remember this was now, I guess maybe pre-pandemic, but do you remember the Wing, which I know went through a bunch of different controversy, but that was a female-led, female-only co-working space, and they specifically had daycare, or they were going to champion having daycare at the WeWork.
Of course, they would be the ones to champion that.
Right, exactly. Because it's like, women are like, no, parents need this. This is a thing. This shouldn't be a novel idea.
Absolutely.
So we'll see. I think that would be a great idea.
And I think the one thing that's going to put the hold on that daycare idea is the lack of people to work there. Like there's been such a daycare labor shortage. Like, as I'm sure, you guys know, it's really difficult to get, a spot in a daycare, but that would make it the ultimate amenity. If you could just go in. I love it. Well, you guys, let's start our own daycare. You guys think about what we're going to call it. It's going to be a co-working and a daycare in a retail center. Yeah. With a food hall.
Well, of course, there's always going to have to be a food hall there.
We work and play.
But yeah, I think this is a great idea. Obviously, this is a real win for Hudson's Bay, right? You have a ton of department store space between Saks and Lord & Taylor. So they're going to be going into Lord & Taylor department stores as well. To me, that's a real win, especially as people are, again, exploring this flexibility. We're not trying to stay at home as much. It's all about this balance. And then for WeWork, this is great too, because the arrangement that they have with all of the Hudson's Bay, they're not signing any leases. So they get to expand without adding to any lease liability for themselves. They'll run the co-working and operate it, and then share the revenue with Hudson's Bay. So I think that this is it just seems like a very good symbiotic relationship that neither company seems really, at least at this point, is putting too much on the line. Like, it actually does seem like a very good, fair partnership. One of the challenges, of course, for doing co-working in retail space is that all these department stores are no windows. So retrofitting some of these spaces is definitely a challenge. But it sounds like everyone's, I don't know if you remembered from the pictures, but there are a lot of plants.
Yes,
like
that was a
A+ in my book. That's great. But, I think we expect to see more of these. They're popping up in the New York area, but they said they have plans to expand to LA, to Boston, to Seattle. So Saks Works coming to a mall near you.
All right. More to come on that in the future, I'm sure. But now it's time for the retail challenge. Keisha, Taylor, Ebere, are you guys ready?
Are they ready? That's the question.
Yes.
Talk early.
So we have 3 questions. You get 1 point per question. The person with the most points after 3 questions wins. If you are watching along live right now, play along with us. Type your answers into the comments. Be the first person to get the correct answer in the chat, and you will win the eternal admiration of your peers, which is priceless. Okay, guys. First, let's talk about adaptive reuse in the theater space. So in order to do that, we are zooming in on Rome, Georgia. Keisha, you ever been to Rome, Georgia?
No.
Okay. It's let me think about this. It's northwest of Atlanta.
Okay.
So we're going to Rome Cinemas on Shorter Avenue. It was for sale. This theater was built in 1983. And the owner said, we're going to sell it because of the pandemic. We're not getting the ticket sales. So there's this new trend, though, where when retailers are selling things, they're saying you can't compete with me because this owner has another theater in the area. So they sold it with the caveat that you couldn't use this theater as a theater. It has just been announced. It has been sold. And the question for you is, what is its new use going to be for this theater? And I'm going to give you each 3 choices. Is it 1, a ghost kitchen for food prep and delivery? Is it 2, a new location for Trader Buck's flea market? Or is it 3, been purchased by U-Haul to turn it into self-storage units? And I'm just going to go around the clock and start with Ebere. 1, 2, or 3. What do you think?
Trader Bucks sounds like something you made up this morning. So I'm going to go with self-storage. I'm going to choose option 3.
All right. Ebere's got self-storage. Taylor, what do you think?
I'm going flea market.
Okay. Flea market, self-storage flea market. Keisha, what do you got?
Self-storage.
All right, guys. The answer is U-Haul will turn the 6-screen movie theater into 500 storage units.
That one was boring. I didn't want to choose that one.
Oddly enough, Ebere, there is a Trader Buck's flea market in the town where I live.
Okay.
But it sounds like something I would make up.
And James, you're good for that. You're good for making up these for the challenge. So that's why I thought it would have been something you made up.
So Keisha, you got it right, so you get 1 point. Ebere, you got it right, so you get 1 point. Taylor, 0 points. All right. Okay. Let's turn to drugstores. So as you guys know, CVS is the largest U.S. drugstore chain. They announced they're going to start adding primary care physicians to their stores. So this is about that trend of vertical integration. So you can own as much of the patient journey as possible. Meanwhile, another chain recently invested in Village MD, and they're going to have doctors' offices attached to their stores. So what company invested in Village MD? Is it Walgreens Boots Alliance? Rite Aid, or Costco? And Ebere, I'll start with you again. What do you think?
I wish I had more time to think. I'm gonna guess Walgreens.
All right, Taylor, what do you think?
I should know this. I'm also going to say Walgreens, even though I can't remember because I just booked my flu shot with Walgreens. And so they're like constantly sending me, oh, these are all the other things that you can do. And I know they're partnering with some kind of medical thing. I just can't remember if that's what it is.
All right, so we got a Walgreens. Keisha, what do you think? Are you going with the crowd?
I'm going to switch it up and say Costco. It looks like they just want to kind of expand into everything. So
that would have been my other choice if I get half points. Just putting it out there.
Well, guys, it was Walgreens.
Oh.
They invested $5.2 billion for a controlling stake in Village MD. They plan to launch 600 Village MD clinics in more than 30 U.S. markets by 2025. So it is that big trend of, just let's totally vertically integrate. But Costco does stuff in healthcare too, right? I'm not a Costco member, but I've seen a lot of, like, they have different, don't they have prescription services at Costco?
They were also, giving out COVID vaccines too. So I don't know. That's how I know more about Costco pharmacies more than I ever have before. But
Yeah. Okay, so after 2 rounds, Keisha, you've got 1 point. Ebere, you got that correct, so you've got 2 points.
Right.
And Taylor, you've got 1 point.
I'm back in it.
All right, so let's see if we can, bring it up to even here. So let's talk about Ralph Lauren. Ralph Lauren has really changed their strategy to focus on high-end shoppers. They're like, let's get rid of the discounts. Let's get rid of some of those low-end channels. So they've pulled back their sales to some department stores, their wholesale. They sold the Club Monaco chain, and they've launched a bunch of localized e-commerce websites so they can sell online in more countries. They're going to be adding 90 stores around the world this year. They opened 2 new flagships in Beijing and Shanghai. And these are interesting. There's something a little bit different than what we're used to in a flagship store. So what of these things is not true about these new Ralph Lauren flagship stores in Beijing and Shanghai? First off, they're larger than other regular flagships. Secondly, they've got an in-store treasure hunt that uses QR codes on your phone. Number 3, it's got a Ralph's coffee shop. Or number 4, they've got customization stations integrated with the WeChat app. So which one of these is not true of these new concept flagship stores for Ralph Lauren in Beijing and Shanghai? And I'll start reverse this time just for the fun of it. So Keisha, that means I'm going to start with you. What do you think?
Okay, so what's not true among this list?
Right.
The treasure hunt.
Treasure hunt. Okay, interesting. Taylor, what do you think?
Coffee shop.
Ebere?
I'm going to say coffee shop as well.
Well, guys, it's actually smaller than other flagship stores.
I just assumed, I was like, no, this is in China. They're going big. They're going to do the treasure hunts.
Yeah.
Right. Well, here's the thing. This is this trend that's really been percolating up. I've talked to several landlords recently who said, and these are in landlords with flagship real estate, and are saying, I don't expect to have the larger flagships. I think even though they'll be flagship stores, they're going to be narrowed down a little bit in size, and they'll basically jam more experience into smaller footprints.
Got it.
Wow. Wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I really wasn't, especially again, you said they're opening up in China. It's like, cool.
Right. Well, right.
And
historically, China's been huge and everything's got to be bigger, but China's changing now. I feel like we needed to get a China expert on here and hear what's going on in China retail, but that's for another time. Anyway, so final score, Keisha 1, Taylor 1. That means Ebere Anokute is our winner.
All right.
I told you guys. Told you.
Ebere, you're killing it. Great job. And
thank you.
You've got universal bragging rights for at least the rest of this week.
Good game, my comrade. Good game.
So guys, normally that would be the end of it, but I've got a bonus content today for those who have the time to stick around. Taylor, Keisha, Ebere, you got some time to stick around?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Bonus content, always.
All right, it's time for a special edition of New Store Opens. This got added at the last minute because I happened to be in Chicago yesterday, and I visited the new-ish Foxtrot Market's Chicago Streeterville location. They've got 10 Chicago locations now, and they're part of the new convenience segment. So that segment also includes GoPuff and Joker. They're also expanding, and their gimmick, their thing is that they do fast delivery in a small city neighborhood area. But Foxtrot really distinguishes themselves from, say, a GoPuff because they have stores that you can actually hang out in and browse. And they've got coffee and with a barista and prepared foods. By the way, when I was there, I had an iced Americano and avocado toast with smoked salmon. It was delightful.
Ooh.
Actually, so this location is actually different. They don't deliver from this location. They've got another one in the neighborhood that they deliver from. So all the others are for delivery and in-store sales. And Foxtrot as a whole does about 50-50 of their sales in-store versus delivery. What I was most excited about was to see what the curated selection of goods on the shelves looked like. No surprise, a lot of wine, a lot of beer. They have sort of a curated mix of both typical C-store stuff, like you see their Lucky Charms, ramen noodles, but then also some unique stuff, local stuff like treats and candies. Their number one ordered product in Chicago is gummy bears, or not just gummy bears, but just the gummy category as a whole, which really surprised me. They've got grab and go. They're expanding. They've got 3 locations in DC, 2 in Dallas. They're moving into Austin, Miami, Boston. The convenience delivery, the new convenience category is super hot right now. There's so many expanding. I mean, the big question for me is there's so many different chains expanding. Is there going to be room for all of them, or are there going to be some winners and losers? I don't know if anybody has any thoughts about that.
Probably always winners and losers, but the thing about the C store is that the market can hold many of them, right? It's not like your trade area is so small. So unless you're doing an actively bad job, part of me, is like, yeah, no, you can be very set up for success. But of course, it goes back to, are you good at delivery? Do you have the good stuff? But I want one of those Rice Krispie treats that was in the video. So
yeah,
for sure. I think they're going to be, Taylor's spot on with the winners and losers, but what's most interesting to me about this is that they have the in-store shopping in addition to the delivery, right?
Yeah,
I feel like all of the ones that we've heard about in New York, at least that I've heard of, like Joker, GoPuff, etc., they're dark stores, right? So you can't go in them, you can only get delivery. And I can't even off the top of my head think about how that might impact sales, but I think that might, make it for, what is this called again?
Foxtrot. I think it's going to be a branding boost for them because, when they're thinking about where to order, if they're going to already there to get coffee and stuff.
Plus too, if you want the prime street location to do your deliveries from, there's a great way to entice a landlord to put you in is by having the amenities for, say, their office building or their apartment building of offering food and a coffee shop. I mean, you'd want to live in a place like that.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, guys. Well, I'll let everybody out there, if you want to learn more about new convenience, Foxtrot CEO Mike LaVitola has been on our Where We Buy podcast, and he'll be coming back again. We're going to set up an interview with him in the very near future. We also last week talked to Dennis Levine at Joker. another instant delivery brand. If you go to everythingweknow.show, it's the micro fulfillment video. Totally worth checking out. So, guys, thank you so much to Keisha for joining us today and lending your
Always a pleasure.
insights. We loved having you, and we'll talk to you again very soon, I'm sure.
Sounds good.
And happy
All right,
belated
guys.
birthday, Keisha.
Oh yeah, happy belated birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right.
Halloween
For
birthday.
Halloween.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Keisha. So just want to remind everybody to listen to the Where We Buy podcast, where we offer in-depth interviews that are a lot more than the kind of quick hits that we do on this show. This week, we're going deep into the future of downtown Santa Monica, California. You can listen on Spotify. We have, you got the podcast app on your iPhone. Just search for Where We Buy, or we're at wherewebuy.show.
Yes, we are. And you can also be sure to hit the subscribe button on YouTube and click on the little bell icon so that you're notified when new shows come out each week.
And you can follow the JLL retail page on LinkedIn. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have a banner for that. And I'm sure there is. Everyone has to give me some grace. So sorry. Just back. Still getting used to all of our fun things that we can. Haha. You
just turned it off. I had already turned it
I know, it's like, I can do this. I still got this outro. I got it. But anyway, please follow us on LinkedIn. All of our great content is on there. Our new episode will be next Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. It's everythingweknow.show. And again, or on the JLL Retail LinkedIn page.
Well, Taylor, can you tell me what else do you know about retail?
Oh, Ebere, I can next week.